In this video, we'll talk about typography. This is not something you should spend too much time on right now. The process of dealing with text and choosing typefaces or fonts is really iterative, since it's pretty hard to choose a font without seeing it in context. And the best thing to do is usually to start with Helvetica, and then experiment when your designs are a bit more advanced. But I wanted to give you the basics of typography theory to help you make better choices when choosing typefaces and ways to display your text. What's important to understand is that typography is both verbal and visual. When your content is mainly text and when there's a lot of it, users usually scan through the page to get a general feel and then take the time to read or not. This means that the way the text looks like influences the reader to read or not, and influences the way he's going to read the content. The typeface, the size, the position of the text can therefore serve or harm your content. That's why it's important to have a general understanding of how these things work. Alright, so let's dive in and start with the basics. The type size, also called the cap height, is the overall height of capital letters. The ascender is the upward tail on letters like H, L, T, B, D, and K. The descender is the downward tail for letters like G, Q, and Y. The counter is the white space located inside letters like O and P. And the X height, or corpus size, is the height of the letter X. Therefore, it doesn't include ascenders or descenders. The X height is the distance between the baseline and the mean line. And the baseline is the line upon which most letters sit and below which descenders extend. Depending on the font style, some or all these parts will be present. Kerning refers to the process of adjusting the space between individual characters. Kerning is used to make certain combinations of letters, such as A, V, W, A, MW, or TA, look better. This is an important concept for people who design typefaces, but for us this shouldn't be something we'll have to deal with a lot. But if you want to understand a bit more how it works, this little kerning game by Method of Action is pretty nice. You can find it at type.method.ac. So, while kerning isn't really something you should deal with a lot, tracking might be. Tracking, or letter spacing, refers to a consistent degree of increase, or sometimes decrease, of space between letters to affect density in a line or block of text. The difference with kerning is that letter spacing refers to the overall spacing of a word or block of text, while kerning is about adjusting the spacing of two particular characters. Letter spacing is very useful in news design. In Sketch, you can adjust the tracking in the inspector by changing the value of character spacing over here. You can even use negative values to have a tighter tracking. You can give it a try. You have the sketch file in the folder of this lesson. Don't increase tracking in lowercase text, as word shapes tend to break up like this. It becomes more and more difficult to read. However, headlines often benefit from slightly tighter tracking like this. Next up is pronounced leading. Leading refers to the vertical space between lines of text. By adjusting the amount of leading between lines, the text can become more readable and less pinched. Let me show you what I mean. In Sketch, you can adjust the leading in the inspector by changing the value of line spacing. The leading value includes the size of the font, so this means that right now there is no leading in this paragraph. The readability of this text would surely benefit from adding some leading like that. The leading value should usually be 1.2 to 1.5 times the size of the font for body text. And you can use a smaller amount of leading in the title than in the body, 1.1 or 1.2 times the size of the font, so something like 54. Okay, this looks much better, doesn't it? Now let's talk about text alignment. This is probably something you're more familiar with. There are 4 types of text alignment that you can use and that you can find in Sketch. Left, this is the most common and easy to use. It's actually the default alignment. Center, use it mainly for titles. When you need to draw attention, don't use it with long pieces of text like this. It's pretty hard to read. Right, this is usually used in letters or on business cards. You probably won't use that kind of alignment very often. And justified, it creates alignment on both the left and the right side. It is mainly used in newspapers, but be careful when working with justified alignment. It can sometimes lead to the creations of rivers of white space throughout the text body. This is not the case here, but if this happens, select the words where the tracking is important and reduce it over here to correct the aspect. Notice that when I select a word or a few words like this, it takes me directly to the text panel in the inspector on the right. If we go back and if we adjust the character spacing, tracking over here, this will affect the whole paragraph, the entire block of text. If you want to change the tracking for the selected words only, select the word and make sure you're in the text panel. So if you're there, you have to go to more, and then you can change the tracking over here. The measure is the name given to the width of a body of type. There is an optimum width for a measure, and that is defined by the amount of characters in the line. A general good rule of thumb is 2 or 3 alphabets in length. That's about 52 to 78 characters. This means that, depending on the size of the text, the absolute size of the measure will change. Another good rule of thumb to keep in mind is to increase your leading proportionally to your measure. So small measure less leading, and wide measure more leading. It will increase legibility. Typefaces are usually what people refer to when they talk about fonts, but please don't ever mix typefaces like I did on this title. A typeface is a design for a set of characters. Helvetica and Times New Roman are 2 different typefaces, for instance. We'll also see in a minute that they belong to 2 different families of typefaces. So, if this is a typeface, what's a font? Well, it's okay to use font as a synonym of typeface, but just so you know, a font is a specific size, weight, and style of a typeface. In Sketch, you can change the typeface by clicking on the text, go to more. You can do it here, but I prefer doing it in this panel. And you can change it to whatever you like. You can also change the size over here and the weight here. So for instance, medium or heavy. There are 3 main typeface families: serif, sans serif, and script. Let's start with serif. A serif is a small line attached to the end of a stroke in a letter or a symbol. A typeface with serifs, like Times New Roman, belong to the serif family. Serif typefaces also use a combination of thin and thick strokes. Serif typefaces look a bit conservative, but are easy to read for longer pieces. If you have books on your desk, pick one of them and have a look. They probably use a serif font. Now, sans serif. In French, the word sans means without. This is why typefaces without serif are called sans serif. Unlike serif typefaces, sans serif have even strokes. They look more modern and they're great for headlines and buttons. They're also usually pretty easy to read, unlike the 3rd typeface family that we call script. Script fonts imitate handwriting. They're often used for logos or titles, but they shouldn't be used for body text. There are dozens of subcategories. You don't need to know about them to produce great designs, but if you're interested, you can check out this website. The link is in the description of the video. So, can we combine different typefaces? While it's always easier to work with only one typeface, mixing two different typefaces can sometimes give beautiful results. If you want to give it a try, avoid using two fonts from the same family. The main reason you'd want to use another typeface is to add some contrast. Therefore, use a second typeface that's not too similar from the first one and change the size, the weight or color. This is what I'm doing on this slide, for instance. You can also check medium.com. Medium.com is a blogging platform, so they have to deal with a lot of text, and they use a sans serif typeface for the titles and a serif typeface for the text body. But be careful, typefaces that are too disparate may not get on well, so trust your eyes to see if the association seems to work or not. For mobile app, I strongly recommend that you use only one typeface throughout the app. By doing this, you'll make sure to keep consistency and avoid looking sloppy. Of course, you can use a different typeface for your logo, and this is even recommended. That's actually what we're going to do with our app. So, where can you find nice fonts? Well, Google Fonts has a lot of great fonts that you can use for free. Just go to google.com/fonts. And Sasha Graff has also written 2 articles about Google fonts that he likes, Google Web Fonts that don't suck, and more Google Web Fonts that don't suck. The links are in the description. You can also check ilovetypography.com and myfonts.com/bestsellers. But as usual, the best way of finding fonts is to steal from others. So look around and find text design that look good and try the fonts. If you want to identify a font, you can go to whatthefont.com, myfonts.com/whatthefont. We'll use it in a minute. You can even install a Chrome extension to identify fonts used on websites. All these links are in the description, of course. Okay, so let's find out what typeface Instagram uses for its logo. This new logo is custom made, so we'll use the previous one. We'll copy the image URL, we'll paste it in myfonts.com/whatthefont, and now we have to identify the letters, so INS, okay. So the matching font is Billabong. Let's look for Billabong font in Google. We'll download it. Okay. Once the file is downloaded, you can unzip the file. So there we go. We have this new font. We'll look for a font book. There it is. And we'll just drag and drop it on top of the other ones. That's it. Now, if we open Sketch, we should be able to use this new font. So let's give it a try. Look for the Billabong font right here, and there you go. We'll try with Instagram to make sure that it really looks like logo. Yep, that's it. And before we finish this lesson, we'll start the style guide of the app. So open a sketch file and write in sample. This will be the name of the app. Choose the Billabong font and change the size to 96. Add another text field and write normal text. This time we'll choose Helvetica Neue. So this one. We'll change the size to 24. and make sure that it's not bold or italic or anything. And once you've done that, save it wherever you want. Call it Style Guide. Thanks for watching this video, and in the next lesson we'll talk about colors. See you soon.